Hi everyone and welcome back to my channel. So in today's video I thought that I would answer some of the questions that you have asked me about GEDmatch. So I've actually made two videos about using GEDmatch for your DNA results, and they've been by far my most popular two videos. Like between them they have thousands of views, which, you know, isn't very much maybe for some YouTubers, but for me it's huge. So thank you for all watching it. But I get so many questions about them still, and I think GEDmatch is something that a lot of people have trouble using. So I thought that what I would do today would be just read out some of the questions that I get and answer them for you. Before I get started, if you haven't already, please go ahead and hit the subscribe button and ring the notification bell so that you are updated of all of my future videos. Okay, let's get into it. So the first GEDmatch video that I uploaded was about using the GEDmatch admixture calculators and also uploading your raw data from Ancestry to GEDmatch. Now, I haven't had any questions about uploading the raw data because I think people tend to understand that bit. It mustn't be too hard, so that's good. But I do get questions about the admixture calculators still. So some people ask me which calculator would be best for them. That's always a hard question because it's going to really depend on the individual and your individual kind of background. If you don't know anything about your background, then GEDmatch admixture calculators are going to be really not particularly useful. Like, they work best in conjunction with having done other research or other DNA tests. But I'll give you one example of somebody who asked this question. She asked, she says, I'm mostly European with some Pacific Islander ancestry and was wondering what other admixture calculator would work well for me. So in that case, I suggested that if she's mostly European, then either the MDLP or the Eurogenes would be best, because for people with European ancestry, those are the best ones. In the video, I do kind of touch on these, and there are different calculators that are more suitable for different backgrounds. So if you have any further questions with that, let me know. But if you have mostly European background, then yes, MDLP or Eurogenes will be your two best calculators. The next person asked when the populations are from. So I took this question to mean when, as in what time in history. These ones are different. So depending on which calculator you use, some of them will say modern and some of them will say ancient. So that'll tell you whether they're looking at more recent kind of DNA or if they're talking about like really ancient DNA. So just have a look at the name of the calculator, and if you see the word modern or ancient, that's the time period that you're kind of looking at. The last question that I got on this was actually about the oracle buttons. So after this, I actually did make a dedicated video to just the oracle buttons, but I did give a quick rundown. So oracle and oracle 4, the person in the question said that they got slightly different results between the two, and what were they? So oracle is taking your DNA and comparing it to the single populations in GEDmatch's database. So when I say single populations, I mean if all of your ancestors just came from one place, this is the place that they think it would be. So realizing that a lot of us have mixed ancestry, that's not necessarily going to be useful. But what it's doing is it's using its algorithm just to narrow it down to one most likely place. So they also have mixed mode, which is assuming that your ancestors all came from two different places. So instead of one, they're saying all of your ancestors came from here and here. These would be the two most likely places that they could calculate. Why can't I say the word calculate? Calculate. Anyway. And then you've got Oracle 4. So Oracle 4 just expands on this. So they'll look at 3 populations and 4 populations, meaning if all of your ancestors came from 3 places, these are the 3 most likely places, or if they all came from 4 different places, these are the 4 most likely places. So which one works best for you is kind of going to depend on how varied your ancestry is. So if you know that all of your ancestors kind of came from one place, like they didn't really move around much, they've just all descended from one place, then you're actually best off just to use the single population oracle button. If you know that you have mixed ancestry that come from a number of places, then you're going to want to use Oracle 4 or 3 or 2 depending on. So you've got to kind of look at your best thing to do is probably look at your 4 grandparents and say, do you know where they came from? And I feel like I'm going around in circles. Does that make sense? So yeah, whether you use Oracle mixed mode or expanding up to Oracle 4 really depends on how many places your ancestors came from. So it's going to be different for every person. That all being said, I did make a second follow-up video just dedicated to Oracle. So I'll go into those questions now. Okay, the first question is, what does distance mean? So you'll see the word distance next to the populations and there'll be a number. So distance is just the how close you are matched to that population. So the smaller the number, the closer the match. The higher up the number goes, the further away the likelihood, the sort of less the likelihood that you match to that population. And that also goes for combinations of populations. So you'll also see if you're looking at, say, Oracle 4 with a combination of 4 populations, it'll also give you distances for those. So it might give you like 10 different combinations of 4 populations, and you'll see the distance number next to it, and it'll say how likely you are to descend from that 4 or that 4. Does that make sense? I hope so. The next question was somebody wanting to know whether there was a calculator tool on GEDmatch that gave a detailed percentage breakdown in the same way that MyHeritage or one of those companies would. And my answer was no, not exactly, because GEDmatch is a completely different kind of tool. You're using different calculators. So unlike sort of MyHeritage or Ancestry, who just run it through one calculator, GEDmatch gives you many options of calculators to run the DNA through. So it's not about one being better than the other, or who knows. It really is going to be dependent on the individual. So if you do just want a really simple breakdown, you probably are just best looking at Ancestry or MyHeritage or something. But if you kind of have done a bit more research and you have more of an idea of where your family was from, then GEDmatch is a lot of fun to play with. So have a look at all of them. Like if you've done your DNA, GEDmatch is free, you might as well give it a try. But if you're trying to look for a really simple breakdown, it's not going to give you that. You have to play around with the different calculators to find which one is best for you. Okay, another question was somebody wanting to know whether Oracle was better or just the admixture calculator, just the pie chart. And neither are better. They're both useful tools, so it'll really depend on the individual. You've got to kind of know something a bit about your own ancestry, meaning do your own research in other ways, like don't just rely on DNA. Go and look into the records, do things like that, and then compare it to what you can see on GEDmatch, and you'll probably find some ways are better than others. Maybe Oracle isn't really for you, maybe you prefer the pie charts, or maybe Oracle actually explains a whole lot. So once again, it's really highly individualized, but I recommend playing around with it. Another question that I had relates to somebody who was looking for their biological father. So I come across this quite a lot in Ancestry kind of circles. A lot of people who in the past maybe hadn't been able to find biological parents or grandparents or whatever are suddenly able to find quite a lot more with the DNA available. This person said that they were French and that they had actually come up with a lot of Spanish regions in their Oracle data, and so they wondered whether that would mean that their biological father could be Spanish. So my answer in that case was he could be, yeah, that's possible, but it's also not definite. So all it says is that this person likely has some Spanish ancestry. So that may have come from the biological father, or it may have come from their mother. Also, it's just a maybe. The Spanish matches might not be perfect. I certainly had some regions that are definitely not in my ancestry, so sometimes the calculators get it wrong. It could be correct as well. Perhaps her father did have Spanish ancestry, but that also wouldn't necessarily mean that he himself is Spanish. He could have Spanish ancestry but be living in any country in the world. He could have been born in any country in the world. his parents and grandparents could have even been born in any country in the world. All it's telling us is that there may be some Spanish ancestry there. So be careful if you're looking for something really specific like that. If you're looking for the identity of a single kind of person, it might not be the best tool for that. But I would still keep it in mind. So it wouldn't hurt to investigate sort of Spanish leads, but it isn't a guarantee either. So I hope that helps. All right, the last question that I will answer is a person who contacted me who is Black American and had quite a high match to Caribbean DNA in GEDmatch. So they wanted to know whether that could mean that their ancestors had gone through the slave trade in the Caribbean. And I said, that's possible. Once again, GEDmatch is one of those ones that you can't definitively say anything, but I would say that it's something worth exploring. I would say if you can go and find the records to support that, then it's totally worth it. I wouldn't say it's a guarantee. I wouldn't take that data to mean definitely anything, but I do think it's really good for finding leads to follow. So take that and you can then say it's worth investigating the Caribbean. Like it's a possible lead for your research. So it's tricky, isn't it? Like GEDmatch is one of those ones. The calculators are amazing and they give you so much interesting stuff to look at, but it doesn't give you those absolute definite answers that a lot of people are looking for. That's why I guess I see it as more like it's like an accessory or a garnish. It's that little extra cherry on top. It's not going to be helpful if you have a very specific question and you need a very specific answer. I think the word oracle is actually really good for it, because you have to kind of take those results and then interpret them and decide how useful that they're going to be for you. But I think they're great if you're just looking for hints or possible paths for your research. All right, I think I've covered most of the questions. I do get other ones sometimes, but they're all kind of in the same ballpark. So I hope that this has helped you. If you have any other questions, feel free to send them through and I'll do my best to answer them. If you enjoyed this video, please hit the like button and subscribe, because it really helps out my channel when you do. Thank you so much for watching and hanging out with me today. Good luck with your research, and I will see you soon in my next video. Bye!